So my name is Fiona Clarke. I am a partner at Burness Paull, which is a law firm, and I was a former student at Aberdeen University.
Thank you so much. And why did you decide to study at Aberdeen University?
So I decided to study there, partly I'm from Aberdeen, so connected to the city. I always loved the university campus. It's very beautiful, it's got a lot of real great history, and the decision was fairly easy because I wanted to study law, and the law school is so well known internationally and had such a great reputation that it was quite an easy choice to go there.
And why did you decide to study law?
So I always wanted to be a lawyer, as long as I can really remember, certainly from sort of secondary school. Partly I think the areas that I enjoyed studying at school sort of lend itself to law, so I've always enjoyed reading and languages and sort of English and things like that were my favourite subjects. I'm also a people person, like to talk to people, like to engage with people, so it always felt like that was a good fit with that type of work.
Thank you. And what are some of your favourite memories from social life in Aberdeen as a student?
Social life. So I made a brilliant group of friends, so I'm still very close to, who I spent a lot of time with, who are from all over, sort of mostly Scotland, but all over the UK and some international as well. I really liked being sort of part of the society, so the Law Society, for example, had such great events, the law balls and things like that were amazing, and I really liked being involved socially in some of the other things, like I was involved in like bookends, the second-hand book shop and things like that. So just the opportunities. I like the on-campus life and the buzz and the atmosphere.
Interesting. And so, did you always know that you want to be a lawyer? And did you know what kind of law you wanted to specialize? And when did you were like sure what you want to do?
So I always knew that I wanted to be a lawyer. I think just because I was interested in things that like sort of languages and English and things that kind of lend itself to law. But I think once I started studying, quite quickly I knew that it was the right thing for me. I think so there tends to be a little bit of a drop-off rate in law degrees across the board after sort of first and second year, because a lot of people go into it thinking they'll enjoy it, and then it's quite it's not easy, and it's quite dry, and there's a lot of reading and it's not for everyone. I found actually the opposite. I loved it, really enjoyed it, and liked sort of the history of all the legal concepts and where they all came from and how long they've been around. And I think quite quickly I realised as well that I was probably going to end up doing law and practising in law that was more personal. So something like succession, which is what I do. So I do private client work, so dealing with people's personal succession, wills, powers of attorney, tax planning, etc. Or other things that I had thought about when I was at university and enjoyed were like family law, employment law, so anything that's got a sort of people focus rather than I kind of knew I probably wouldn't be like a corporate lawyer where it was more focused on the kind of business side, but actually more on the people side.
If you had to summarize your career, what were the key milestones that led you to your current role?
The key milestones would have been so in order to be a practicing lawyer, there are you have to have certain things. So you have to have a law degree, and you have to, in Scotland, have the diploma. It was called the diploma in legal practice in my day. It's slightly different name now, but you have to have both of those. I did both at Aberdeen University. So those are sort of your very first milestones. You need to get those under your belt to then begin to be go along the path as a lawyer. Probably the next very big milestone for me would have been I did some further study. Because the area of law that I work in has a particular specialist body that does extra studies called the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners, and they do diplomas in succession law, tax law, etc., like that sort of area. So I did that a few years into my career, and that was another big milestone because it's a real sort of boost to your career when you have those. And I suppose the other very big one would be when I became a partner within the firm and got that sort of step up to the partnership level.
That's very impressive. And what are your how does your day-to-day looks like? What does task you work on? Like, what are your responsibilities?
So every day is probably a little bit different, because it very much depends on what clients need from me in that particular day, what the team needs from me in that particular day. So my day would be a mixture of meetings with clients, calls with clients, that sort of thing, quite a lot. Most of the things that I do with clients are in person. Again, just the nature of the work is very personal. Doing things to do with sort of management and looking after the team, so that might be just having a catch up with the team. That might be sort of having discussions around training that we need to run, or looking at sort of particular management issues or questions that we need to think about. We do quite a lot of business development within the legal profession, so the way in which new work is won by a law firm or by a lawyer is to actually have someone come to you and ask you to do it, and therefore they need to know that you're there, they need to know that you do it, they need to know that you're good at it. And so a lot of the job, particularly as you become more senior, is actually learning to develop new business, bring new business in, which you do by getting to know people in the market, having spending time with people in the market. So for my area, accountants, tax advisors, etc., getting to know them, building relationships so that we can sort of work together for mutual clients. So a mixture of all of those things on any given day would be my sort of day-to-day routine.
That's very interesting. And how would you say technology is changing the way you work and like how the industry works?
So hugely changed, even just in the time I've been within the industry. A lot of it, I think, at the moment is the biggest changes are around automation. So there's a lot of things that we as lawyers historically did ourselves, or would have someone do within the business, that actually now we don't need necessarily to do ourselves. So the most obvious is actually drafting up documents of certain types. Obviously the document always needs a lawyer's input to make sure it's correct and appropriate and bespoke for the client, but a lot of the work to sort of have the starting point of that document can be done by an automated system. So that side, automation is very much, I would say at the moment, quite common and becoming more so within the profession. I think the other side of things, more kind of getting towards more use of AI, more use of kind of things along the lines of like ChatGPT and so on. I think that's a little bit further away at the moment because there's still, I suppose, a little bit of uncertainty about how that's going to fit into legal practice, what's appropriate to be done by AI and what still needs. So I think that'll be evolving over the years. I'm sure it will be.
Very interesting. And what was the proudest moment in your career?
Well, that's a good question. I think the proudest moment, it's slightly difficult between two. One is becoming a partner. It's within a private practice lawyer, becoming a partner is obviously a really big milestone. It's a point at which you've sort of reached that step in your career where you've sort of got to the kind of top layer, as it were, of the firm that you're in, which is amazing, and it's a huge boost, I suppose, for all the work that you've done. But the other would probably be when I was doing my STEP exams, which was earlier in my career. I won quite a few awards, sort of academic awards, for performance in those, which was amazing, obviously really lovely, and because I worked very, very hard, so it was nice. But also at the time they hosted the awards in London, and so I was able to go down and sort of attend the awards and things. So it was just a proud moment because I was able to sort of celebrate and actually have the event to attend and so on. So yeah.
That's very impressive. And so what's your advice for students who are looking to specialize in your kind of law? In your area?
So I would say that the biggest thing ideally is experience. So if it's possible, and I know that internships and things can be very competitive, but it's possible for students to try and get experience. It doesn't need to be a formal internship. It might be that it's just shadowing someone. It might be that it's just some firms will maybe get future sort of trainees or future summer students in to do part-time admin roles and things. Anything at all that gives you experience in the industry and in the office and in the environment is really helpful. But also in addition to that, I would say, because those are hard to come by, and I totally recognise that, I think actually not focusing solely on them, but actually looking at other things like, if you do have any contacts, just meeting them for coffee, hearing a little bit more, picking their brains, getting some ideas from them. Or some firms, ours included, will do things like insight days where you can come along and just get a little bit of insight into a law firm, how it works, what it would look like if you were to work there. Or things like, I'm aware that the university and lots of other organisations will do things like mentoring schemes. Getting involved. I think that's the main thing, is getting involved, finding ways to get involved, because there's not just one route to get yourself experience. But I do think that the more that you can build a bit of experience, the better. And the other thing I would say is start quite early with things like being aware of what's going on in the market and so on. So it's quite noticeable when you're interviewing graduates, for example, those who keep an eye on the local newspapers, keep an eye on sort of the local market, have an idea about what different companies within the city are doing, in whichever city that happens to be. And that sort of market intelligence and sort of business intelligence is just so valuable, because I think a lot of people at that kind of student stage don't really pay much attention to it. LinkedIn would be the other one. Being active if you can, so far as you can on LinkedIn, but also just keeping an eye on what's going on in LinkedIn. If there's businesses that you're interested in or areas that you're interested in, there's so much good content on there, and if you can engage with it, even just be aware of it, so that when you come to be interviewed for an internship, you clearly have a bit of knowledge and you're actually paying attention to the market. It's all that sort of thing.
That's a great advice, thank you. And would you say networking is important in your career, and how it's important?
Yes. So
in your industry, I mean.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. So within the legal industry, you essentially don't really, if you're not out networking, meeting people, getting to know people, you just won't get work, and you won't be known, and you won't be, what you essentially want is where someone has a particular legal issue and they need some help with it, you want to be at the top of their list. You want to be on their mind. They go, I know if I'm going to ask about this, and you're there. And the only way that you're going to be at the top of their mind is because you've actually spent time with them. They've met with you. They know you. They trust you. They've had the opportunity to network with you and get to know you. And that's both in person, so actually attending networking events, or for certain areas, just getting to know people more directly for a coffee or for a lunch and actually chatting with them, but also networking sort of online as well, so the likes of LinkedIn as an online network, sort of being visible on there, but also being quite active at looking at what others are posting on there is quite key. And I think it will become more so as we get, the more and more we get sort of on the online world, the more important it becomes.
And would you say studying for LLM is important, or it's not necessary?
I don't think it's necessary if you want to go into practicing law. It can be. I know some people who did masters and found it very helpful. So one colleague, for example, who was a trainee with me at the same time, he's not at the firm now. He went in house, but he did a master's in a specific area that he was interested in, and that's ultimately the area he specialised in. So there's definitely, it can be quite a positive move. I don't think it's necessary for practicing law. It's fairly unusual, I would say. Most of the students who come through as trainees haven't studied for an LLM. So there's maybe a few and far between. Having said that, if you do it, then actually that probably makes you stand out a little more, because it's a little bit more unique. And I think if you did do it, then you would presumably pick a area of law you were very interested in which case that kind of probably gives you a kind of step up in terms of knowledge on that area. So certainly not necessary, but there's not a bad thing to do it.
Thank you. And are there any books or podcasts or any other resources you would recommend? It might be career or non-career related.
Yeah, so I generally, so in terms of sort of recommendations, I would say LinkedIn is one that as a sort of network that I would be suggesting. I would say certainly it won't necessarily apply to all cities, but I think in terms of Aberdeen, certainly the local press is still very, so the Press and Journal in particular is still a very important part of the business community and part of business network. I think there are other cities where that's maybe less so, but I think it's still an important publication. It's got a lot of really good stuff in there, and so that's quite important to follow. I would say places like, for example, Aberdeen and Grampian Chamber of Commerce and all of their content is really good, because they are very proactive at sort of pushing out any news around business activity and things in the northeast. Plus they do really excellent events and things, so that's all really useful. And the other would just be sort of networks and things where there are any kind of in-person type ones. There's a few kind of launched recently in the city where they are more targeted at younger kind of professionals that are coming into professions, and actually kind of getting them together in person. And so looking out for those and participating in those wherever you can is also really good.
That's a great advice. And the last question is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
So I would say worry less and enjoy the moment more, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was very studious at university, which was good and it's paid off, but I think I probably could have had a better balance and probably just actually enjoyed kind of the moment of being in university and things a little bit more than I probably spent too much time looking ahead to what I needed to do next. But balancing with that, work hard, because it genuinely does pay off further down the line. And I think as well, just be bold. I think because we often worry so much about what's next or what the future holds that we're almost a little bit too cautious, and actually there's things you know, that where I am now, if I'd looked at myself sort of 15 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it, but actually just sort of believing in yourself and being a little bit bolder and doing things that you really want to do and kind of taking the leap sometimes is important.